we put up yesterday, which was I give you credit. We posted the poll, who's the face of the NBA, on the Lefty Twitter page, and the votes came out, and people seem to think that Steph Curry is the face of the NBA. I disagree with that.
Due to your argument is why I said Steph Curry has to be. Due to what you
I know it's not LeBron. I know that for a fact.
It is LeBron. I'm just saying it was pointed out that it was Steph based off of your argument. My argument is LeBron is the face of the league because just think about it. Just look at it. It's like if you look at your household right now, we don't have to question who's wearing the pants. We can just see it. Now, there may be technicals and technicalities if you ask individuals in the house. But if you just outside looking in, just looking at it, you know who the face of the league is. Just like the man of the household.
That's tenuous, though. That means keep it a buck. That's tenuous. Let me explain. I'm just using my example. That's tenuous. Because even though I wear the pants, I'm not the most influential in my house. But it's not even close.
See, okay.
Not even close.
That's just like LeBron. LeBron may not be the best player at this. You got better players in the house, more valuable, probably paid more, But the face of the house,
yeah,
you know who it is.
Yeah. So, perfect segue. This is my question: who is the face of Notre Dame football
right now, or just like is it like Jerry West? Who's the Jerry West logo?
Right now.
Right now, who's the face?
Now. It would have to be the head coach, right?
Yeah, it's
it would have to be the head coach, right?
It's Marcus Freeman.
It would have to be the head coach. Yeah. It would have to be the head coach. I'll tell you a candidate, though, in a few years. You're going to be talking to him tonight on IPC. So everybody should tune in. Also, Novosad, 2020 quarterback. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Baylor, A&M in the mix for the young man. You looking forward to the conversation?
I am. I really want to see where the interest lies, if any interest lies in Notre Dame coming on late but strong. I just still think there's a lot of value. But, maybe we're not a fit for what he's looking. Those Texas quarterbacks are very particular.
Mm-hmm.
They fall in a very specific category, and what they like generally is the same, and they usually stay in the same family of offenses. So him considering Notre Dame is already outside of the realm of what a Texas quarterback is thinking. I don't think we've ever had a Texas quarterback at Notre Dame that's from Texas.
We have. Yeah.
Not in the last 10, 15 years.
No, not in the last 10, 15.
It'll go back some. Well, in that last 10, 15 years, that's where you can just already know where the offenses of where Texas has developed its football.
Just off the top of my head, Texas quarterback left.
Yeah, you can't think of one.
No, so we went on a California spree for a while. Of course, we've had plenty from Ohio, plenty from the East Coast. DK was from Ohio, right?
Yeah, he's from Toledo.
Ev was from
South Carolina. Hendricks from Ohio. Tommy's
from Ohio. Tommy's from Chicago.
Yeah.
Really late for us, but I'll give it to him. No. Dane, Chris, and Clausen were from out in Cali.
Yeah. Brady
was from Ohio.
Trying to tell you.
Well, it's an interesting question. So that's the question of the day. Who is the face of Notre Dame football? And we're going to give LL Nation an opportunity to put us up on something today, right? Put us up on something. And I was asking Malik, as his son grows, he's going to get to a point where his son's going to be listening to some music, and Malik's going to be walking through the house like, yo, what the heck are you listening to? But at the same time, Malik's going to be bobbing his head like, that's kind of all right. It's kind of all right. So I saw this clip last night. The game had a performance at a concert, and he brought out a special guest. And he took me back to the first time my twin sisters, who are 14 years younger than me. Don't even ask me what my parents were thinking, bro. Twin sisters, and they were in high school at Crete Township, who will be facing off against Drake Bowen and Andrean on September 3rd, by the way. And I remember walking around and hearing something coming from their room. Like, what the heck are y'all listening to? And it just happened to be this song right here.
Shit. And the shit before that, this for Chuck, Cherish. I'm a millionaire, I'm a young money millionaire. Come on, this time, my dog cherry, you're a bitch, I know a bitch, is a bitch, and I'm one stereo disease, like a bitch, no, please.
Bro, let me tell you something. And this all comes back to what we're talking about. It was strange to me, which is why I had to knock on the door like, yo, what's that? And when they actually told me it was Wayne, I didn't really realize the run that Wayne was on. Like, Wayne had become the face of hip hop, bro.
Oh, for sure.
And I didn't even know it. Like, he had become the face of hip hop. He was the face of the culture. I didn't even know it. And it's just like, man, maybe it's going to take that type of moment, for someone to become the face of college football. Jokingly, someone said that Dylan Gabriel transferred from Central Florida out to Oklahoma, now the quarterback for the Sooners, is the dark horse for the Heisman. And I kind of laughed to myself, and I'm like, nah, I just can't see him like becoming the Lil Wayne of football. Like I would say the path that Johnny Manziel took was kind of like similar to Wayne. Because remember, when Wayne broke on the scene, he was the baby of the crew. It was all about BG, Juvie, and everybody else. And he was just the baby.
He was competitive, though.
He was. But it's like he just made this mixtape underground buzz run, and the next thing you knew, when that Millie hit, I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, he's that dude. Like, and the fact that I'm bobbing my head to this, I'm like, yeah, he's that dude. Is there anybody that you think might end up making that type of run this year? And you just might end up being like, could a Jameer Byrd do that with Alabama?
I gotta go with my dog Spencer, man.
You think Spence Ratt? Okay.
I think Spencer Rattler has a lot to prove and has the talent, if used right, to be in that Johnny Manziel type of situation. I think South Carolina is set up real nice now.
Yeah.
Good coach, good schedule.
Yeah.
It's under the radar because you're not hearing a lot about the NIL and the transfer portal and all that, but they've gotten a lot of great talent out of there too.
Yeah.
So they might sneak up and be. I know Spencer's an exciting person to watch. So
yeah.
I think it'll be interesting down there in a more competitive and spotlighted place, even more than Oklahoma was.
Yeah. It'd be interesting because we gave our 5 quarterbacks under the radar to watch on yesterday's show. But I'm just really look. I was watching the press conferences, and we're about to get into media day buzz, specifically coming from the SEC, and then we're going to talk about 75 million and how it clears the path to independence for Notre Dame and modern football. And then we're going to talk about something Nick Saban said that I think is like, man, yo, you might be bugging a little bit. It's a lot to talk about and cover with this media day buzz. And matter of fact, let's go ahead and get into it, right? Just a little bit of it. I want you to listen to Greg Sankey, commissioner of the SEC, as he began to talk about Oklahoma, Texas coming in 2025. One of the things he did say, and he was pressed on it a little bit, with Texas and Oklahoma coming in early. And, you know, he was very shrewd in saying, you know, we have nothing to do with that. That's a Big 12, Texas and Oklahoma issue, which contractually it absolutely is.
Right.
But, you know, everyone's lining up all of these moves to line up with expansion. Texas, Oklahoma, 25. The current format of the playoff ends right then. Like, everybody knows why and when they're making these moves. But he talked about the return of the southeastern quadrant of the United States with everything that's happened.
We're in contiguous states. It's a southeast quadrant. I do have a few letters about what's southeast mean, but we are in the southeast quadrant of the United States. Those two additions actually restore rivalries. You know, the Texas-Arkansas game last year was pretty special, but that goes back a long way. Obviously, Texas and Texas A&M rivalry will be like our in-state rivalries across the league. You have Missouri and Oklahoma that are a quarter of the Big Eight that are now part of the Southeastern Conference, and the opportunity for Arkansas, Oklahoma to play regularly. I think that's right. That's who we are. Those fan bases get it.
And his point, once again, Greg Sankey, SEC commissioner, his point is well taken from a geographical standpoint and also from a traditional standpoint, because those were traditional games, you know, Texas and Arkansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma. You know, you restore those rivalries going back to the Southwestern Conference and then even the Big Eight. You know, I can see why, you know, the move was made outside of, you know, just pure economics. But at the end of the day, as Greg Sankey is talking about tradition, let us not forget what's really at the forefront of all of these moves. And that's without a doubt the ability to make more money. And when you have more teams, you can ask more. Like, we are going to get into the $75 million story that was put out yesterday concerning Notre Dame. But the backstory to that is what NBC is looking for. And not only what NBC is looking for, what the Big Ten is possibly about to get as far as their Big Ten contract. So it's all about and driven by the money. But, you know, I'm with tradition. And I like seeing teams that grew up, well, teams that played each other annually years ago, getting back to those traditional matchups.
Yeah, I mean, you can't replace a good rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of these games to be coming back, it could provide a lot of community and fan rivalry. You know, the college football fan base will expand and grow deeper with these rivalries coming back and the merge and everything included. So I think this is just a part of how the evolution of things happen. Eventually it'll probably be like the NFL, where it's the AFC, NFC kind of style. So I think it all comes down to these TV deals and how these things align. And SEC is pretty special, man. It only continues to grow with more traditional programs.
So when Greg Sankey began to talk about the playoff expansion, and, you know, one of the things he said that was very interesting is going to parlay right into what Nick Saban said this morning on the airwaves on ESPN, which was quite shocking, is that Greg Sankey said he was pushing to take the SEC and get the ACC to the prominent spot in college football as a conference, to have the seat at the top of the mountain. But at the end of the day, not only is he the commissioner for the SEC, but he still is a college football fan, and he wants what's best for college football. So at some point, pushing for the SEC, he still has to take a step back and look over the full landscape. And he kind of talked about that and hinted to, in the future, he might want to get away from conference affiliation with the college football playoff altogether. Check this out. It was quite interesting.
But the pressure was there to have conference access with some guarantee. And so the 12-team, 6 at-large, which increases the at-large access, and 6 conference qualifiers, not automatic qualifiers, but the guarantee to the 6 best conference champions, was a really good balancing outcome. But things have changed. And I was clear back in January when we walked away from the conversation that we as a conference weren't unanimous in our support. I had, as commissioner, moved people forward to the point we were supportive as a league. And if we're going to go back to square one, then we're going to take a step back from the model introduced and rethink the approach. Number of teams, whether there should be any guarantee for conference champions at all. Just earn your way in. There's something that's healthy competitively about that and creates expectations and support around programs. Where we go, we'll see. We've had one initial conversation in late June. I walked into that meeting not very optimistic about the ability to talk through issues, and I walked out much more positive about the path forward than when I walked in. And there's a lot of work to do. We have time and we'll use it. And it's the same type of issues that you've heard, AQ or no AQ, how many teams, what's the relationship to the bowls, when do we play these games on a calendar. We really need to look at that more deeply than we did in the previous iteration. So we'll see how it goes. But those are the realities. But I'd be fine with no AQs, whether it's 4 like we have now. It's a model that's worked, 8, 12, but the inclusion of conference champion access was I thought an effective compromise at a 12-team playoff.
So there you have it. He's just talking about how the SEC was at the forefront of the presentation of expansion to 12 teams, 12-team format for the playoff, 6 automatic qualifiers being conference champions, which gives you 6 teams outside of that to be able to be added, and supposedly the non-Power 5 teams will have a better chance to get in. Yeah, whatever. But for him to admit that there wasn't full support for that expansion, even within the SEC, leads you to believe that there are some presidents out there that are not happy with, where things are headed in college football. And for him to say, you know what? This is the interesting question. If it gets to the point where they have to go back to square one and it's all about playing yourself in, that bodes well for Notre Dame. Like, if you just get rid of automatic conference champions into the playoff, then Notre Dame is all good, especially if you expand to 8 to 12 teams.
Yeah, it would almost negate the effectiveness of what the conference championship would mean outside of the conference. Maybe it's a bigger prize that you win for the championship, since it doesn't count towards the playoffs as much. I do think that either way it goes, until you fix recruiting, it's just so top heavy with how college football is that you can put 24 teams in the playoffs and still 2 teams will be better than the other 22. So I think less attacking of the playoffs. I think you first do recruiting, then you address the playoffs. Until the playoffs even out, they're not going to even be interesting to watch. It's no different than a bunch of bowl games that we used to have with like Eastern Carolina playing Western Michigan, for the Popeye's Chicken Bowl, so I think it's important that if recruiting was even, it would make the playoffs more exciting how the professional playoffs are exciting. Those teams in the playoffs are all competitive. Even the play-in tournament for the NBA is competitive because they're all competitive amongst each team. So it's too many college football players and teams out there for it to be an even playoff set. So if anything, you expanding it would only be useful for the TV revenue for the schools and the league itself.
Well, absolutely. When you keep the championship games in, this is what you can present to those media, outlets for your media rights to say, we deserve this amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not only getting our regular season games, you're getting the championship and, probably getting, radio rights to the playoff games if we make it. Right?
So
So
they get college football plus out of it.
Yeah, and it 8 is sensible based upon the way things are now. The next step is either 6 or 8. That's sensible. If you go to 12, and this is where Greg Sankey is being a little disingenuous, because the truth of the matter is everything broke off because the rest of the conferences, especially the Big Ten, pushed back on this, and they knew the whole would go to 12, and then there's more opportunities. You have 6 more non-qualifiers outside of the conference champions. And everybody knew, as much love as everyone gives to the SEC, you're basically saying whoever loses the SEC championship game, and then the third team will pretty much be in the playoffs. So you're really trying to secure more spots for the SEC teams by taking it out to 12 instead of taking it to 6, and then you would probably get a little bit more appreciation for the Cincinnatis that just barely miss out on making it in because people are looking at their schedule when they're undefeated. So Greg Sankey, he's being a little disingenuous. He's not really looking out for everybody else, giving more opportunity. He was really looking out for the SEC, trying to get the second, third, and even the fourth team opportunities to make it in.
Yeah, I think, the landscape of college football with the SEC being a prominent conference, I do think that expanding the playoffs would just include more SEC teams because of just the narrative. Like SEC teams that aren't in the contention, they don't care about the outside bowl games. That's just the perception. So when they lose to a Michigan or a Big Ten team, when it goes SEC versus Big Ten, it's very lopsided towards the Big Ten in victory. But the SEC, from a narrative standpoint, they don't care. If they had lost a big game as a rivalry in SEC, that meant more than losing that bowl game. So I do think the playoffs would just be a push to add more SEC teams that would essentially get them to care more,
Yeah. And with that being said, I'm all for it, right? I'm all for it's cool. The conference championship thing is dope because in basketball, because everybody plays in the tournament.
Yeah.
So you can literally have the 8th seed in the conference that struggled all year go on a run for 4 games and make it to the big dance. But more than likely, the top 2 to 3 teams in that conference are already in.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah, more than likely. And the excitement of that entire week, championship week, watching those games, watching the tournament. It's excitement. When you get to these conference championship games, you might have 1, maybe 2 that really have national ramifications tied to it. But other than that, think about the Pac-12 championship for the last, 3 years? Really didn't have any college football playoff ramifications. SEC always does. The ACC
always does.
Yeah. Clemson has ran roughshod through the ACC, so
Yeah, when they was beating, who they beat like 70 to something when they had play. It's like those games are just irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
So, that might be the understanding of where things are going and understanding
because
that.
those teams are comparison. Like Clemson in the ACC
Mhm.
is the private Catholic school that plays the public city schools in the playoffs. It's like, man, y'all recruit players and y'all got all this funding and nice stuff. And then
You're speaking from a high school standpoint that happens all over America. Right.
yeah, like IMG playing, some school in Chicago.
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah.
Clemson makes playing divisional ACC game championship games look like.
Like you get on the train going downtown to work and you see all of these uh, well-built young African American males or young men on the train at 5 a.m. with khakis and a polo shirt. And you're like, all of a sudden they get off the train at 63rd Street and you're like, oh, you go to Mount Carmel.
Oh yeah.
You
I know
live way out here in the suburbs, but you go to Mount Carmel.
That's right.
Like you couldn't go to Homewood Flossmoor, you couldn't go to Rich Central, you couldn't go to. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I totally get your point. I totally get your point. And right now, from a basketball standpoint, Chicago, this is transfer season, right? This is when you see kids from Tinley Park High School, all of a sudden a 6'6" kid is transferring to Simeon, or he's transferring to Whitney Young. And, and the local school that had promise for a possible push to a state title.
No chance.
No chance at all. So I just think what Greg Sankey said was part truthful, a little disingenuous, but at the same time, a recognition of, yo, I thought we had a compromise. If we don't like that and we're going back to square one, hey, every man for himself. Forget the conference affiliations, just man.
It should definitely be, a Champions League and like the Euro League. There's the one Euro League, and that's like the best one. And it should be comprised of Ohio State, Bama, Notre Dame, Clemson. Throw a team on the verge every year, a Utah in there, maybe. Throw an Oregon in there. That's the Champions League. 24 teams, 2 divisions, and then they play a schedule of only those teams. And I think that's a great way for one, you drive the competitiveness of TV deals. Oregon's not taking a week off. They play Texas 1 week, they may play Bama week 2, and it'd be like essentially Notre Dame playing everybody playing a Notre Dame based schedule. So Alabama will play SEC. Alabama play USC, and then go over there and play Ohio State week 2, and then come down and play Tech. So that way, if we had a Champions League, you put all the traditional programs that are usually, pretty solid and worth, watching on TV. Can't leave out Texas and stuff. Can't leave out Penn State. But you make a schedule of all competitive teams like that. That's something worth watching. And then everybody else, you can do the whole free education and, enjoy. And make it almost like a G League. Since the transfer thing is, if you good enough and you at Colorado and y'all, it's like a G League kind of thing. You ball out in there, you go to a Bama, you go to a SC, a traditional football program, So I think that's a way they should do it. They won't do it because they, a lot more politics and sensitivities are going into it. But that's the way I would do it if I wanted to drive the most out of it.
So let's get to Nick Saban and what he said. That's a perfect segue. Lucky Lefty podcast. I'm Shaun Davis at SD2 Mics. That dude, the original Lucky Lefty himself, Malik Zaire at Overtime Malik and Malik Zaire 8 on Twitter. As always, we're brought to you by Onora Whiskey. So Nick Saban, he showed up at the SEC Conference Media Week on today, Media Day on today, and he sat down on, I believe it was Get Up, and Mike Greenberg this morning, and he was asked about all the movement with conferences with USC, UCLA, Texas, Oklahoma coming to the SEC, what his thoughts were. And he was very honest, man. And I appreciate him for saying that. He said that, look, it is unfortunate, but it is the story of the haves and the have-nots. And he said, unfortunately, the bottom teams in conferences are going to suffer.
Unless they have good coaching.
He said they're going to suffer, and they get left out. And he was like, I really don't know how to answer it. I really don't know if there are moves for them combining with other teams to make another conference. But he was like, maybe we can do it like soccer. This is when my eyes got big. He said, maybe we could have some type of relegation where you can play your way in to the top conference or play your way out of the top conference to have some type of competition still there. And I was like, relegation in college football? I'm like, this guy, Nick. I'm like, man, that's tough. Because I don't know how long Vanderbilt would last in the SEC if they have to play, to stay in the SEC. You know what I mean? It would be very interesting.
Out as 5 and 7 every year.
Yeah. So when he said that, I said, wow, that's an interesting concept. But, as these conferences get bigger, as he said before, it becomes the haves and the have-nots. And, teams have to find a way, to be able to generate revenue and make sure their product is put out there, with media rights and an outlet.
That's right. I mean, any way to push the competitiveness, because talent has drowned it out so far, and recruiting has drowned out the balance of college football and made it a haves and have-nots. I think any way you can address that is beneficial to what you're trying to create in terms of a pool and an attraction. Because there's a lot of college football games that's just not worth watching if you're not an avid football fan.
Well, I'm an avid football fan. I had this argument with someone yesterday, and we'll get back to it. We were talking about the Brittney Griner situation. And I gave my opinion on it. Because I look, Brittney Griner doesn't move the needle for me.
Yeah, if it was LeBron moved the needle.
No. I didn't even go that far. I'm just saying, as a WNBA player, she doesn't move the needle for me.
Yeah,
she's not Diana. She's not Taurasi. She's not
that one girl, Sue Bird, or
she's not Sue Bird. The kid from the New
Sabrina.
York, Sabrina Ionescu. She's not Maya Moore. She's not. She doesn't push the WNBA needle like that.
And girls are dunking all over now.
And the person that came back at me was like, "Well, you're just saying that because you're a man, and da da da." I said, let me stop you. I'm from Chicago. We basketball. We're not men's basketball. We're basketball. I'm from the city where the women's championship game at the amphitheater was sold out. I'm from the city with Dorothy Gators. I'm from the city with Kim Williams. I'm from the city with Cappy Poindexter. The girls get just as much love in this city as the dudes. I don't know what city you from. But where I'm from, we love basketball. We don't love genders. We show up regardless. The Chicago Sky, they sell out games. Why? Because of Chicago. So I'm like, you talking to the wrong person. You talking to a person that was in practice and saw Vivian Stringer walk in and was starstruck. Because I knew who Vivian Stringer was as a women's college basketball coach. Like, you're talking to the wrong person. Like, don't get it twisted. And, like, stop making excuses. It matters when the face of a particular sport is at the forefront. of a particular topic.
Yeah.
So even though your boy LeBron is a big grifter, if it was him over there, I would venture to say the NBA would be making sure.
Yeah, we'd be sending over choppers and all type of stuff. Humvees, tanks, submarines,
Dude.
rockets.
And so it's just one of those things where
But nobody is, sometimes you got to take accountability
you have to
for your mistakes. And this is not the first time she's come in trouble with the law. So,
And dude, I don't even want to go down that road that seem judgmental. Like, look, everyone has their slip ups in life. But I want to bring this back to the point. You can't assume and don't assume what's being done. Because the majority of the time, you have to allow these things to play out. Right? And with all of this talk that's going on, what I'm telling you is when Nick Saban, just like Nick Saban, right before the championship game said, hey, we need to get control of this NIL before it becomes the Wild Wild West. And what happened? It's the Wild Wild West.
The Wild West.
Nick Saban is telling you, like, hey, at the rate this is going, like, we might start to see relegation with teams having to play in and out of conferences. Is like, man, he's one of those type of people, like, when he talks, you need to listen because he's at the top of the mountain. He's at the top of the mountain. Like, someone asked him today flat out, do you have the best two players in college football? And I had to think about it. Like, God dog it, this dude might have the Mike and Scotty of college football. He might just have the Mike and Scotty.
Will Anderson, them boys is nice.
He might just have the Mike and Scotty of college football. So for him, his whole point was we're good. Like, none of this affects Alabama. Like, whatever, man, NIL, all of this, he said, my players made $3 million last year in NIL money.
Well, Bryce made majority of that.
Right.
Bryce and Will probably made majority of that.
Facts. And Will, I think Will caught people by surprise. So he's probably going to make even more.
He's going to make some more. But Bryce have at least 1.5 out of the 3.
Absolutely.
By himself, quarterback.
And to venture to say that this is crazy. This might sound crazy. Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy. And he might not have been the best player on his team. Just think about that.
Might not have been the best player on his team. And it's a couple guys you can put in there. They got like a top 5 best players on the team.
Man, that's crazy.
Because you had a first-round receiver get drafted. I mean, usually the Heisman, it's like Cam Newton was the best player on his team.
Yeah. You realize they gave that dude
best player on his team.
Do you realize they gave that dude Jameson Williams a 99 in speed on Madden, bro?
With a torn ACL.
With a torn ACL. Just thought I'd throw that in there. But yeah, it is schools like Notre Dame, like, let's keep it real. The top 6, and we've seen it in the chat because you guys have been talking about it during the show. Notre Dame, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, USC, whatever top 6 program, Ohio State, the top 6 programs you feel like have a chance every year or legitimate title contenders on an annual basis, they are unaffected by what's going on right now.
Yeah.
It's not even about them. It's not about them.
They're already on top of the mountain. So
They're already on top of the mountain. They're on top of the mountain. So
they just
how
falling up. That's all.
dude, if you expand the playoff from 4 to 6, it makes the path for them, the top teams, a little bit easier. That's all. If you take it to 12, as I said before, this is the danger. You take it to 12, you might start seeing players rested in games towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
Like, it might get that tricky. It seriously might get that tricky. Lucky Lefty podcast.
Might get sticky, like Jake said.
Notre Dame, reportedly, according to Dennis Dodd, is looking for $75 million in annual media rights from NBC. Plus their current deal, which gives them 15 right now, but they end up really, because of other bumps in the contract, they end up really getting $23 million per year. Now, this is the interesting thing, Malik. NBC has made it known for them to feel comfortable raising Notre Dame's valuation to that level, it is seeking to shoulder programming. And what they mean by that is they want another Power 5 conference to be able to come on and play before Notre Dame games, which would either be nighttime or in that 3:30 slot. So now they might be looking to add the Big 12 as that 12 o'clock game leading into Notre Dame. And they're saying in order to give Notre Dame $75 million, which means Notre Dame will still be the face of college football on NBC and NBC Sports affiliates. But they would need another Power 5 conference to come in and, have their games on NBC to help bolster their overall college football package. This is where it gets interesting. Basically, what NBC is saying, and we said this about a week ago.
Notre Dame
When the news broke about them possibly joining the conference, I said Notre Dame can go to a network and ask for a contract between 65 to 80 million. We said that weeks ago. We told you where the sweet spot was.
That's right.
65 to 80 million, right? Some people might feel like Notre Dame can ask for more. Relax. Don't be greedy. It's all about the ability for Notre Dame to take what they get and generate even more revenue off of that. That's what Notre Dame is great.
Just want starting points.
Yes, and people don't want to talk about that. Notre Dame is fantastic at being able to generate its own revenue and more than anything else, do whatever it wants to do.
That's right.
Because of its independence. But this is the clue. NBC is doing or requesting something to give Notre Dame that 75 that Notre Dame already knows it has in its pocket with another network. We talked about it a week ago. CBS already has the MAC, the AAC. They already have a conglomerate, the Big West. They already have a conglomerate of 5 conferences to subsidize games to surround what would be the crown jewel, and that's Notre Dame, every Saturday at 3:30. They already have it in place. They don't have to negotiate with the Big 12 or another conference. It's there. And all they're waiting for is their SEC contract to end, and they can bring Notre Dame right in. Here's your 75 million. Here's your 80 million. We already got everything else. We already have a CBS Sports Studio show, high quality. We can go back. There's nothing better. I'm probably terrible sounding when I do this, but there's nothing better than a Saturday before a Notre Dame game and you hear dun, 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 dun. That takes you back, boy. That takes you back. Yes, sir. Standing up on your arms, it takes you back to the good old days. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You think you're going to hear Brent Musburger's voice for a second?
That's right. It's like that.
It'll get you hyped. It'll get you hyped. Ultimately, Notre Dame is putting NBC's feet to the fire because Notre Dame knows, we got CBS freeing up already with a package. And Notre Dame understands the recruiting impact because all of the big-time recruiting websites are under the CBS umbrella. That's why you see all these recruits committing on CBS Sports on Twitter. Think it not strange that Notre Dame threw that $75 million out there to either force NBC into a tough situation or to get NBC to say no.
It's chess, not checkers, man.
Yes. Oh, go ahead and say no to it. We want $75 million. Go ahead and say no.
Go ahead and say no.
Go ahead and say no.
We want you to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, look, when we tell people that Notre Dame and Jack Swarbrick, and a tip of the cap to Jack Swarbrick for the patience that he has shown and understanding the landscape, and seeing
they're making good moves a lot.
Dude, he really has. He really has. And that said, NBC better make the deal now. Because if Notre Dame wins a national championship, the price of the brick is going up.
It's going up.
It's going up. Please, in the next 2 years, don't let Notre Dame win a national championship. And then you have to come back to the table. Oh, that 75 is going up to like 90.
We're Thanos in college football. We get that last gem.
Right.
All we need is that championship stone.
Yeah.
Put that thing in that glove.
Man.
Yeah. We telling people what to do. We align in conferences at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We just need that Thanos, that championship. Put it right. Beep.
Yeah.
Beep.
Yeah.
Turn everything to dust.
Yeah. Two of the top three most viewed games in the history of Notre Dame and their affiliation with NBC. 2005 USC, 93 Florida State. Just think about that, bro. The Clemson game from 2020 cracked the top three. Other than that, it was pretty much games from years ago that sat at the top of the most viewed games on NBC. So, I don't know if you place that at the feet of Notre Dame. I don't know if you place that at the feet of NBC. But where this brand is now and where it's going with Marcus Freeman at the forefront, you have to be pulling in some ratings better than that. You have to. You have to be pulling in some ratings better than that.
And our ratings will go crazy because they want us to. It's like they hate us or love us. The way we balance our schedule.
Yeah.
And because we're all over the place and play primetime slots, TV and radio made Notre Dame the team to want to watch.
Yeah.
It's because we got on it first and been doing it for so long. Now everybody wants to catch up. But us being so wise in the game, we're Kodak that actually went past, the photo. We went bigger than that. We didn't just said we're going to ride with Kodak. We went and took it bigger. So right now, we're really the Microsoft and Steve Jobs of college football with it. People want to figure out we can't really buy the brand. We can't invite y'all in with nothing. We got to make sure everything is right before y'all come over.
Yeah.
We cleaning all the bedrooms and bathrooms, y'all, and we just staying in the living room. So that's what all these conferences and these outside external places need to recruit us. We the first school to be recruited.
Right.
We're the first school to be recruited and be the 5-star school out here. We just waiting for the right opportunity, if we even need that.
Yeah. And here is another kicker in this entire saga. The Big Ten is expected to announce a new $1 billion media rights deal as soon as early in August, primarily with Fox as its main partner. But it's also
Fox been
believed
trying to pick up ESPN for a while.
it's also believed that they are seeking 2 to 3 other partners. They just don't want to have all their games, one big game on Fox, and then all of the other games on ESPNU, ESPN2. No, they want multiple games on the big networks. They want $1 billion for it. And NBC reportedly is in the bidding for those extra Big Ten games. Now it's okay. You want to bid on the Big Ten? Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Nothing is really going to get us pressured into doing this.
No.
So
No.
I think we're good.
Sitting in a good spot. And like we said, that sweet spot, 65 to 80 million. 65 to 80 million. And if they win a national championship, price of the brick, you're talking about 90. You might as well pay us now. You might as well pay us now, boy.
Don't do us how Dak and the Dallas Cowboys messed up, or like the Lakers messed up.
Boy, you let Marcus Freeman win a national championship, boy, you're going to have to put a lot of baking soda in that bad fella to get your money back. You're going to have to cut that, boy.
Notre Dame got you for the cheap.
You're going to have to cut it.
Notre Dame got him for the cheap now. That $6 little million ain't nothing. At Notre Dame, double figure millions. He's supposed to be making. So let him win one in the first year. Man, you better cut it, cut that check, cut it, and then cut Lucky Lefty a little one for promotion.
Lucky Lefty podcast. So the media buzz from SEC, Greg Sankey, Nick Saban, everything that's going on. Can I talk to you about something that I saw last night that really touched my heart a little bit before we get to the petty train?
What?
Episode 1 of The Captain, which is a 5-part series about Derek Jeter. And I know everybody's waiting to get to episode 4 and 5 when you hear the stories about Mariah Carey and all the girls he talked to, Jennifer Lopez. Yeah, as someone that talks about college football, analyzes high school players, and talks recruiting, ultimately it brought me to a space to realize I don't care how much you think you know the game. It's not up to you. Perfect example. You can say whatever you want to say about Spencer Rattler, bro. What you think, what you see. It's all up to Spencer Rattler. It's on him.
It's on him.
It's on him.
That's the best thing about sports.
Right. And, you'll probably come on after he makes or takes South Carolina to a 5-1 start. You'll come on and say, see, I told you. I told you Spencer was going to put in work. When the truth of the matter is, he put in the work. He made it happen. If he doesn't, he can flop. And you have to come on here and say, man, I don't know what happened. This guy from Kalamazoo, Michigan, not a hotbed for baseball at all. Northern kids don't get respect baseball-wise because it's a seasonal game for us. We can only play it for so many months.
That's true.
But he put in so much work to end up being the 6th overall pick in the draft by the Yankees. And the crazy thing was he was a lifelong Yankees fan because of his grandmother that lived in New York.
Mm.
So to get the opportunity to be drafted by the team that he rooted for his entire childhood. But this is where it got interesting. He's the number 1 pick. Do you know this dude made 56 errors? Think about this, bro. Not in a full 162 game season. This is single A. Single A, bro. This dude made 56 errors his first season in single A.
Can't make that up.
56, bro. That's insane. 56?
No, that's bad.
As the number 1 pick. And we all know who he has become and what he's accomplished. It's up to the individual. And that's the greatness of sports, man. Like, you can be in the doldrums and go to the highest of heights if you put in the work and you believe in yourself. Like, so as much as we sit up here and talk about all these players and what we think they're going to do and what they can do, it's not up to us. We're just talking. We're just giving our opinion. That's all we're really doing. We're giving our opinion, and then we sit back like everyone else and let things play out. It was a fantastic. It's called The Captain on ESPN. It's streaming on ESPN Plus. Episode 2 was on Thursday. Episode 1 was absolutely fantastic. That dude, man, this is the fun. That dude had the same walk in his Pampers, bro. They showed this dude walking around as a toddler, and I'm like, dude, he has the same, you know, the little upright chest out. The same, he was running the same way in Pampers. I'm like, yo, this is wow.
Wow.
Great story, man. Great story. And ultimately, you know, as much as anyone tries to call themselves experts, they have nothing to do with the success of individuals, man.
No.
They don't. They just don't. And it was a great documentary. And it just really put me in that mindset to what we really should all root for. All athletes. Right? Root for guys, man. You know, root for them to put in the work to get better, especially Notre Dame players. If they have a tough season, they have a tough game, yo, hopefully they put in the work and they get better and they help us to wins.
Yeah, we just putting people in the position of the hype train. We got a pay train, we got a hype train. We like to add guys onto the hype train, but they have to buy the ticket.
Man.
We ain't giving away free tickets. We showing you all the brochures, but you gotta do it yourself. And I think that with what Marcus Freeman has set Notre Dame up for in this program, he can kind of step back and be like, okay, let's see the results. Let's see where this is going to lead us. And I think it's going to put us in a good space.
Okay. Because we love LL Nation, our guy Wayne Miller said you should do a Derek Jeter top 10 girlfriends list. Okay? All right.
The list will be.
So I'm just going to throw the names out there, bro. You ready?
Let's hear it.
Mariah Carey, Tyra Banks, Jordana Brewster from the series, the Fast and Furious series, Scarlett Johansson, Jessica Alba, Vanessa Manillo, Adriana Lima, Jessica Biel, Minka Kelly, Anna Davis. Yeah. What do you think about that's just 10 right there.
He died a happy man, man. I tell you that. He died a happy man. I don't. What's the transition off of these women? How you just Jessica Alba and then you just move on?
And we can't forget Vita Guerra as well.
Like, how do you just like, yeah, I have Mariah Carey and I just slid over. Mariah Carey for some men would be their whole life. So
Yeah.
what's the end of the start to the new conversation? How you go from a J-Lo, then you go to a Minka Kelly? Like you tell Minka, yeah, I had J-Lo, but she was all right. But you way better. Like how do you they don't ever talk and ask questions. It's all, celebrity stuff. It's interesting.
Look, man. That's what happens when you're the face of New York sports, bro. Once again, that's what we talking about. We started the show talking about the face. He was the face of New York sports. He was the face of New York, man, for a long time, bro.
Now you got guys like freaking Zach Wilson.
Embarrassing himself.
He ain't even doing it right. He need to talk to Jeter. That's the guy he need to talk to.
Dude. A lot of votes for Minka Kelly, boy.
She's okay.
A lot of cats talking Minka Kelly. A lot of cats talking Jessica Alba, too.
Yeah.
I can't be mad at Derek Jeter and enjoying himself, bro. When you're that dude,
when you're that guy,
you just happen to be that guy, bro.
Yeah, you gotta, comes with it, man. That guy, you just,
we
enjoy it while you got it.
We can wish that he was a GC, but
not everybody's a GC.
We teased yesterday our list of most underrated. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. And hopefully we can get him on in the near future. He's in the midst of a season coaching as an offensive coordinator in the CFL. Jarius Jackson, man, is the most underrated quarterback at Notre Dame, bro. Bro, his 2 seasons, what he did, and he really didn't have a lot on the outside. I'm just going to keep it 100.
That's when he was transitioning out of running.
Yes, it was. And Bob Davie was his head coach. Let's keep that real, too.
Bob Davie is a tough son of a gun, man, right there.
But what he went on to do after playing in the NFL for 2 teams, to go on, win 3 Grey Cups, and win 1 as a coach, and on the verge of possibly winning another one. Yo, tip of the cap to Jarius Jackson, man. Tip of the cap. That's right. Tupelo, Mississippi. So another quarterback that didn't come from Texas. Man, did we ever? I'm sure there was a quarterback from Texas on the roster at some point, bro.
No.
You don't think so?
Because that's not the style we know. That's not the style of offense we run over there. Not a lot of success behind quarterbacks from Texas. In the Midwest.
Oh, man. Somebody said, was it rumored that he talked to Free from 106th Park? I wouldn't be mad at him.
Man, Derek Jeter's a menace, man.
You know, like people used to be like, man, Free or Roxy. Like, that's not even close. Well, it wasn't close for me.
J-Lo is up there for me. I mean, like, dang, like a list like that. Good man.
But where do you go from there? How do you even know who is the one?
You didn't have so many ones. He probably got to a point where it's like, I've figured out the secret of women. It's not to have none of them. You got to have all of them, you know.
Michael Johnson, indeed she was. Indeed she was. So, Thursday, Bruce Feldman from Fox Sports is going to join us, also The Athletic. He has two amazing books, one about the modern quarterback and one called Flip the Script. And then we're also going to talk about his youth football stories as he tries to coach his young son's youth football team. I can't wait for you to have those stories too, bro. That's a whole nother level of coaching. So we'll have Bruce Feldman on with us at 11 a.m. on Thursday. And then Friday, former Notre Dame running back and now Western Illinois wide receiver Jafar Armstrong joins us on For the Culture Friday, right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. We're brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com, that premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. And if you drink, make sure that you drink responsibly. For the great Lucky Lefty himself, I'm Shaun Davis. Most of all, make sure that you spend it different today. We'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Lucky Lefty. Wait a minute. I almost forgot. I'm bugging. Bro, you should have said something.
I was trying to wait till you was paused before we
Dude, I looked at the chat and Cass was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know what time it is.
Petticoat, petticoat, petticoat junction.
It's time to get petty
Oh, we did a good job executing.
Are you upset with something?
and fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's petty historic Petty Junction?
Petticoat Junction.
Petty Junction. Petty Stories of the Day brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com, and premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. Oh, the pettiness.
Ever go.
LeBron James reportedly put together a three-way call with himself, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook to talk out their differences. Dude, you just tried to get Kyrie, bro.
He just tried to get
You literally just tried to get Kyrie. What are you talking about, man? Now this dude wants to kumbaya on the three-way.
Yo, after he did his best to get rid of it, it wasn't until all his options ran out. Now you want to call Jeannie wasn't messing with you. Rob Pelinka wasn't messing with you.
Bro.
And now you want to call and be like, can we work this out? I was sorry, bro. Just, business. It was business.
Nothing personal.
So no wonder why Russ wanted to leave.
Let's go to Florida, bro, where a social caseworker has been faking notes upon visiting homes, faking notes that the children are happy where they are. This has been viewed as a federal offense, as a critical element of child protection, and the record that demonstrates troubled families now are being supervised and the children are being overseen by federal authorities. Look, man, how terrible of a person do you have to be? How lazy of a person do you have to be? Like, your job literally is to go, drive to the home, ask them questions, talk to the child, and go to the next crib. You're not even showing up, and you're faking notes. Meanwhile, kids are suffering. This is what I tell people, especially when I go to restaurants, bro, and I see people with attitudes. Like, if you don't want to work here, don't work. Just don't do it.
You don't have to work here, man.
You don't have to work here.
Ain't nobody telling,
Like,
and they
dude,
like, somebody got a gun to their head.
dude, I am very patient when it comes to service, bro. Like,
So are you a tipper? Let's get to it. Are you a tipper?
Oh, I've been blamed for tipping too much.
Oh my god.
Because I'm the dude that when the server comes to the table, male or female, if their name is visible, I call them by their name.
Okay.
So if the dude's name is Michael that comes to the table and he greets us and say, "How you all doing tonight?" I say, "Hey, how you doing, Michael?" I don't just say, "Hey." I say, "Hey, how you doing, Michael?" It's like, and people, that makes a difference.
So
people.
do you want the tip or do they want the tip?
No. First of all, I'm trying to get the best service I can. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to set the atmosphere for the best service I can get. And if I get the best service I can get, I'm going to tip right.
The best service you're supposed to get is unquestioned. You're already supposed to get that. That's supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's supposed to happen. But don't
So
act
that's not
like,
tip worthy though.
don't act like the small things don't matter to people when they do.
You treat them, like a person, but it's also a job.
You said treat them like a person.
Yeah, you making it seem like that saying their first name is good. No, they doing their job.
It's like, man, engage. What's wrong with engaging with the servers and cracking a couple of jokes when they come to the table? There's nothing wrong with that, bro.
Tipping.
What do you mean?
What are the requirements for you to tip? You said you're an over tipper. How does that occur at going to dinner with Shaun?
I'll give you an example. We went to a conference down in Florida, right? And it was a big party. We went to breakfast. We were in Fort Lauderdale, Plantation, Florida, as a matter of fact. Original Pancake House. And this gentleman was serving us. It was about 8 of us. And what he did, he made a mistake. He recognized the mistake. We didn't have to tell him about the mistake. He came back and said, "You know what? I gave you somebody else's food. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that you don't have to pay for that. I'm going to go ahead and take that and take the responsibility for that." Brought the food back. Fantastic service. Man, spoke to us, didn't just like put the plates down and walk away. Very cordial. And the way we all were treated, we got together. All of the dudes at the table, we all felt the same way about his service. And we blessed him on top of the regular tip. So we tipped him off the bill. And then we went outside and came back in. And all 4 of us blessed that dude with like another $100. And that dude broke down in tears and was like, "Yo, thank you. I really appreciate that." It's about service, man. It's like, yo, people that go above and beyond normal service, they deserve to get.
I agree with above and beyond.
They deserve to get
their name tag out.
You missed my whole point. I said, as someone that's greeting someone, you should be able to call them by their name. If they say, "Hello, my name is such and so, I'll be your server," don't just say, "Okay." Call them by their name. Like you said, treat them like a human being. And when you do that, you get better service. I promise you. Service is just not this linear thing. It's just like everybody gets the same service. No. Servers will tell you they increase their service by the way they're treated by the people they're serving.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that's true.
So I just that's my only point, man. That's my only point, man. So yes, you know, my wife has been known, like when I put the tip down, she's been known to pick up the check. Like, what is this dude tipping, man? Like, man, you tipping too much. How do you tip? How do you tip too much? How do you tip too much? Can you tip too much? Do you think you can tip too much?
Yes, you can tip too much because unless you just being generous and giving out donations, you might as well, go down to the Red Cross and donate all that money. I just think tipping is very, very much explanatory A+ type work. If you make me laugh or something, I ain't asked for all that. That's a tip worthy. But if you doing your job or y'all mess up and you correct it, that's not no tip worthy, man.
No. I didn't say most people don't even correct it. They have to be corrected. Let's keep it a buck. They have to be told, like, you know what? I didn't order this.
Yeah, because they hate their job.
You know what I'm saying? For him to come back and say, oh, wait. I messed up. Man, don't worry about that. I'm going to make sure it's taken off the bill. Y'all don't have to pay for that. And still get you what's done right. He went above and beyond. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go to the manager and say, man, this is my fault. He went above and beyond. He did. So, man, Jay Henry said you stingy, bro. You
Definitely not stingy, but just conservative with my bills. How about that?
He said Malik got that Reservoir Dogs tape. You're on mute. And we got 2 super chats. Christopher Morgan, thank you for the super chat. ND could stay independent with $75 million plus new TV contract. Absolutely. Christopher Morgan, another super chat. Don't get me started, Malik, as a part-time server, only about 15 hours a week just for extra cash. Servers like conversations too. Make it weird. And when I go out, I tip 30%. That's commendable. 30%? That's pretty good. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, man. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Now it's time to end for another episode of the Lucky Lefty podcast, man. We appreciate